guys, so today I wanted to talk about how I am spending my fall semester off. Basically, last spring was the semester that I finished my associates. By the end of my last spring semester, I was dying. 12 credit hours of coursework, classes that were all trying to be the most time-consuming classes I had ever had. I had a nightmare of an online course, an internship, which was taking anywhere from 6 to 15 to even 20 hours. So I would have Mondays and Wednesdays where I'd go into this internship, and then I'd have Tuesdays and Thursdays where I was doing classes. All of my time outside of that was either doing more work for the internship, or it was doing more work on my assignments, or it was doing my actual work that pays my bills, which definitely got put on the back burner more often than not. And on the weekends, I was spending up to 8 hours outside working another job as a performer. Before I even got to midterms, I was done. I was checked out. I was not actually getting anything out of my classes, and I was like, you know what? It is time for me to just say, I'm done. Spring semester ended, I graduated with an associate's, and for 3 months after that, I felt like the human equivalent of a soggy, wet blanket that was prone to randomly crying and just had no motivation. And I was so used to having my time dictated to me by these other places, either the internship or school or assignments that had deadlines, that I hadn't made a choice about how to spend my time for months. And I just did not know what to do about it. I tried to fill up this time with doing more work, but I found that that had very limited return on investment because I just wasn't able to put out good work in the capacity that I wanted to be able to. So I kind of loafed around like a jellyfish for a little bit. I think it eventually worked, even though it did kind of have me walking that fine line between wallowing in despair and rest. I also changed birth controls after finishing my associates. I think that definitely had a large part of why I was so drained over the spring. After I switched birth controls, I went from having a week every month where I would just randomly cry and having a week where I would feel nauseous. I would have 2 weeks of just feeling like I had no energy. It was just a bad birth control to be on, but I figured most of my symptoms were just the stress of school, and so I didn't really think too much of it. I'm feeling much better, if not slightly hypomanic. That is so much easier to deal with than feeling like I need to curl up in a ball and cry every other day and take a ton of naps and just not be emotionally prepared to deal with anything. Now I'm prepared to deal with everything. It's improvement. A shit ton of reading. I have finished more books in the past month than I have in the past 6 years. I spent a long time not reading. Now I have been just chewing through books. I just finished 2 over the past weekend. That said, one was Vlog Like a Boss, which was relatively short, and then the other one was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Great book, highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it, and I think that it really does a good job of breaking down the things that make us not have the lives that we want, and how we give too many fucks about things that aren't actually important to us, and then we wonder why we're out of fucks. I don't know why it's like I come in here and I suddenly get like allergies. I don't know what it is. I was completely fine until I walked in here, and now I've got like, oh my god, I feel like I need to like do the sniffles so much. I have always roughly been familiar with the idea of calendar blocking, which is basically going through and looking at everything that you need to do and putting it on your calendar and just blocking that time out. It sounds really simple, and I always assumed that it was something that people who were more important than me, more busy than me, had better things to do with their time. I always assumed it was something that those sorts of people did and that I wouldn't benefit from it, and it wasn't until I was looking at productivity videos and someone mentioned Amy Lamb Andino's video on calendar blocking with Google Calendar. I watched that and it was just like something clicked and I started to see the value in it that I hadn't seen before, especially right now where I'm not enrolled in any classes. I have 3 things per week that I have to do on a regular basis, aside from just normal everyday things. And I always thought that was just not enough things to really justify taking the time to block it out, to put the organizational pieces together. But there's something about that video, which I will link to. There was just something about that video where it made sense to me that it seemed like something that was worth doing and was worth the energy. So now I have a million Google calendars. I have one for my normal everyday routine where I have my sleep blocked out. I have time for getting ready for bed to get a nighttime routine going. I have a morning routine listed in there. I'm still tweaking it though because my sleep schedule has been completely fucked for a little bit, but it's slowly getting there. It's a work in progress. I still see the calendar reminders and think, oh yeah, I need to do that. So it's percolating. It is brewing. It is getting there. I have my preliminary class schedule already mostly blocked out. I highly recommend calendar blocking even if you feel like you're not in a time in your life when you're that busy, because something that really hindered me from making the most use of my time was feeling like I don't know how to make a decision about how to spend my time anymore. I hadn't been making decisions about how to spend my time. It's really helped me to have a better picture in my mind of how I want my day to go and to actually consider, how do I want my day to go? Like, what do I want to spend my time on? So now, even whenever I'm not calendar blocking things specifically, I am still in that mindset of making choices about my day. And I know it sounds really basic, just making choices about your day, but I feel like anyone who's been in that situation where you haven't had to make choices about how you spend your time knows what it's like whenever it's like that part of your brain just isn't there. So it's kind of like training wheels for making it get there and forcing yourself to turn that back on, lift those little mental weights of actually considering how you want to use your time and going for that. Of course, if you are also self-employed, you know the dangers of not actually blocking out your work time, because it's always really easy to not have a good, steady, solid schedule or work routine. Over the spring semester, my work, like I said, it got put on the back burner several times, and I did it enough that I could survive, but I wasn't growing, I wasn't expanding, and I wasn't making the most of what I had. I have been trying to get a solid work routine set up. I have set this routine up in such a way that whenever my classes start in the spring, if everything goes to plan, nothing will disrupt it, and whatever is disrupted can be moved to a different time so that there's still an element of predictability, which for my line of work is super important that people know when I'm going to be online, where they can find me, and plan around that because I'm asking them to take time out of their schedule too. They can't do that if they don't know when I'm going to be online. I have been working on getting my skincare back where I want it. Right now my routine has 2 steps: wash, moisturize. It sounds simple and it really, really is, but it keeps me from backsliding. It keeps me from creating further damage. My next step is to add in an SPF. I had an SPF that I liked and then I couldn't find one that I wanted to buy at Ulta last time I was there. Shame on me. Use your SPF. Do not let the sun fuck up your skin because you just didn't want to put on an extra step. I can see my fine lines forming whenever I get really close into the mirror. I don't like it. Protect your skin. I've started making dentist appointments that I put off while I was in school because I didn't floss at all over my eye. And I am paying for it in gingivitis. It is what it is. I'm working on it. I am trying to rebuild from the places that I backslid while I was not feeling like a human. I've started really examining my spending habits and figuring out ways that I can make systems that will work. There's a lot of different tips and tricks for spending money wisely and for saving money. None of them will help if you can't actually confront what you're spending your money on, what you are using your money for, what your priorities are. Like, if you don't know what your priorities are, then it doesn't matter how much money you could technically save by buying an espresso maker instead of going to Starbucks if you're not actually paying attention to your spending spending, which is something that I am very guilty of. There's something about tracking spending and really looking at it and committing to saving money that for some reason makes me just have a very visceral response that is not benefiting me in any kind of long-term way. So I'm working on that. I've started trying to get better about introspection and figuring out, what do I want to get out of life? What are my priorities? What do I feel like I need to do? And, you know, it's kind of bad. You would think that I would have better answers to those questions, but I don't. Like, I'm still getting those answers figured out, and I've relied on outside sources to fill those in for a while. But at this point, I'm not going to be able to either make forward progress or know if I'm making forward progress if I don't know what I'm trying to progress toward. And last but not least, plotting like a motherfucker for the spring semester. I am so glad that I took the fall off. I think that everything that I've been doing has been necessary and beneficial, except for the parts where I've been a lazy bum because I wasn't feeling up to doing these sorts of things. But I think overall, I made the right call. Had I went to school in the fall, I would have backslid even further. I may not have done so well in my classes. I wouldn't have made a good impression on my professors. I just wouldn't be progressing in the way that I feel like I need to be progressing. And that said, I am so ready for this fall semester to be over. I need January to get here so I can start my classes. I absolutely love school. I enjoy structure and rigidity and clear, quantifiable ranking systems where I can judge myself by someone else's metrics because it makes me feel validated. I am always that student that is like doing as much as I can to get a straight A until I realize that my grade is so fucked that I can only get a B, and then I will settle for a B. But I really try to maintain as close to a 4.0 GPA as I can. Unfortunately, I kinda am not the best at that. I don't think you guys will see me ever making a how to get all straight A's video, because while I've had semesters where I've had straight A's, I have also had semesters where I've made B's. So I don't feel qualified in that regard. But because I love school so much and I'm so willing to just completely throw myself into it, I also use it as a way to escape all of the other pressing matters in my life that are less quantifiable, and I don't have paid professors hounding me about, and I don't have scheduled 3 hours a week to sit down and work on those things. It becomes a tool for escapism, and I think that I would have continued to do that had I taken classes over the fall. And now that I've got a better grasp on my life, I am actually pretty excited to spend the next 3 months just trying to set my life up in such a way that I don't feel overwhelmed at any point in the coming semester. I think that if I get some good routines set up now, good sleep schedule, good morning routine, get my priorities set, I think that I can have a much more enjoyable school semester than whenever I was doing school last spring and dying and struggling through every second of it. So that's why I'm spending my semester off. If you're also taking a semester off, or you have taken a semester off, what were things that you did that helped you to get through it? What were things that you recommend, don't recommend? What do you have to say? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you liked this kind of content, please give a thumbs up. Those help Google and YouTube know that this is quality things that they should share with the rest of the internet sphere. And the bullshit cliche thing to say, please subscribe and like hit the bell so YouTube knows that you want to know that I'm making more things, because otherwise they won't notify you, and then you won't see it, and then I'll feel kind of sad because I'm not getting external validation, and really that's what I live for. I'll see you guys later. Bye!